Hi, and welcome to Magic's Illustrator Beginner Tutorial. In this guide, I'm just going to cover 3 tools that you can do a lot with in Illustrator that you wouldn't exactly find in Photoshop. So let's just get right into it. First, we're going to pick out the size of our canvas here. We want to go over to Web, pick a nice, 980 by 1080, and all of this is fine. Generally, when you're making things in Illustrator, you do want to go higher, but only because you're going to print these things out onto like posters and logos and graphics design, things like that. But since we're just going to do something for the internet, maybe something we upload, 72 will always be fine. You won't see any difference between any of those. Alright, so if you're familiar with Photoshop, you'll see a lot of tools here that are pretty much the same and work the same as they do in Photoshop. Go over here, you can see our layers, just like you would in Photoshop, make a new layer, all of that good stuff. So here we're just going to cover 3 tools here, and those 3 are going to be the Direct Selection tool, the Shaper tool, and the Mesh tool. And the reason we want to cover those is because they're kind of really help give you a visualization of what makes Illustrator different from Photoshop. Alright, so let's get a nice background here. Take a big square, just kind of make it any color really. Nice. Okay, so we have our Shaper tool here, which is pretty much the same as the Shape tool. The only difference is you can swipe around with your pen and it will kind of try to figure out what shape you're going for. It's not exactly perfect, but it does help if you don't want to make let's say you want to make a really quick to size shape and not have to deal with going here and picking like a square and then making sure you have an appropriate size. If you just kind of want to like eyeball something, it's a pretty good tool. It's pretty fun if you want to just throw stuff together and just see how it'll look like really quick. Go, okay, well, what if I made it look like this? Yeah. The second, probably most important tool I want to cover here is the Direct Selection tool, which helps kind of pinpoints how Illustrator sees shapes, or particularly anything that's vectorized. By having these points, which I'm sure you've seen points in Photoshop, but unlike Photoshop, all of these points can be moved and edited about freely, and you can kind of morph anything you create afterwards. It's not exactly like freehand like you would find in a Photoshop document. You can grab any point after you've drawn it and just kind of go to town. Really get some creative and interesting shapes. As you can see, I'm like rounding out the square. You can do that with pretty much any object you find or you make. So it really just helps you to like just focus more on what kind of image you want to create and not so much have to worry about getting the perfect line stroke or anything like that. You can choose your thicknesses or whatever. So now, let's say we'll start with like a circle. I said a circle. There you go. And then I can start showing you what the Mesh tool does. Now the Mesh tool recognizes that you have a shape, and allows you to put points inside of that shape for you to edit and move around with. So at a glance, it doesn't seem like much because we do still have a circle, yes. But what you'll notice is you'll be able to select them just like you would be able to select the outside points, and you can edit that information. So I'll give you a quick example here. Let's make this a slightly darker circle, and then go up here to our direct selection, pick out one of the anchor points from the mesh tool that we've made, and maybe go with something like this, something similar here. We can use the eyedropper tool, and bam, look at that. Now we've got kind of like this dimension kind of going from like a really simple shape that we've created. So I'm going to take the shaper tool. Let's make an oval really quick underneath the circle. And take the mesh tool again. And let's go with something like right here, and actually 1 point. It should work. So let's move that point here, and let's give it like a, let's match the color, right? And then just go a little darker. Okay, and then let's move this oval behind the circle. Let's see how that looks. Cool. We are kind of getting like a little rim lighting here. So let's, again, take our direct selection tool, grab an anchor point here maybe, and the eyedropper tool. Grab here, click the anchor tool, grab the eyedropper tool again. Maybe let's go darker. Something like this, right? All right, see, we're already kind of starting to get like dimension and some cool looking funky stuff from just like 2 minutes worth of work, really. So yeah, I think that should about cover it. Just showing you can do a lot of cool things with just the 3 tools that you would only find on Illustrator and not exactly on Photoshop. And of course, because this is vectorized, as opposed to the rasterized that you would find in Photoshop, this means that you could take these objects and, you know, blow them up really big or shrink them down to your liking, and you won't get that what you see in Photoshop, which is it'll start to get really blurry the closer you get into the object. So it's good if you, let's say you want to have like really clean, good line art. You can do your nice, clean, rasterized line art in Illustrator, and then, you know, use the strength of Photoshop, which is you know, a more painterly approach, and just kind of paint it in Photoshop while keeping it clean, rasterized lines from Illustrator. Hopefully this guide has helped you out, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.